Morning, everybody. Like Dave said, I'm Mike George. I'm the IT director at Lutheran Senior Services in St. Louis. I'm here to talk to you about how we've implemented some of the care quality functionality through our EHR through a partnership with NetSmart. Just a quick note about who Lutheran Senior Services is. We've got 22 locations across north central Illinois through Metro St. Louis and over into central Missouri. We service about 11,000 lives per year through a mission with 3,100 employees. Just a quick note kind of our timeline through this. We started in late 2015, progressed rapidly through a rapid implementation with the functionality to the point where we are today at all of our life plan communities being live with the NetSmart functionality, NetSmart program. So how did we get to care quality? So we started back in August of 18 with testing and realized very quickly that we wanted to implement this very quickly because of the power that it has. We knew we had work to do though, so we started with updating our consent forms to make sure that we had the proper language there so that we were accurately getting this information and making sure that we were from a legal medical record perspective, getting what we needed from consents. We also then updated our workflow for our health information coordinators. So they hadn't historically documented in an EHR. They had managed the back end of it, making sure that documents were uploaded and information was there for the clinical staff, but hadn't really documented there before. So training to them on how to get that into the EHR. Once that's happened and we've got that document, we've got the paper documentation there, we've got the electronic version of that ready to go, we're ready to do the functionality. So we start with requesting documents. When we do that, we can gather this from a whole host of our referral sources that are on their care quality network. We get a lot of things from the care quality network. We get obviously the CCD, but we can also get encounter summaries, discharge notes, therapy notes, medications, surgical summaries. These last two are big in our world. We can get nursing home visit summaries. So for our hospital partners who are visiting our residents in some of our communities, they're using Epic. So they're gathering that Epic documentation. We can gather that directly from there and import that into our record seamlessly. We can also then use the order import functionality to take that information and direct it immediately into our EHR from the CCD. So this is a quick picture of what that looks like. We can gather the allergies and medications, gather those together, select which ones we want, add them to our EHR, and then what that does is it puts those there in draft mode for us. So then nurses can go in, complete that order, take the notes that are coming along with that order again, so they don't have to type that information in and have potential for error there as well. So obviously we've got several benefits from this. Number one being on demand. We don't need to wait for workflows or processes that are outside of our control. It's up to date. We've had instances where we've seen same-day ED visits immediately available to us, same-day surgeries immediately available to us. We're also able to maintain or obtain that information directly from care quality and not be reliant on the hospital portal, another different login, another set of procedures to go through to get that information. It's all seamless within our EHR. Our MDS coordinator, so the individuals who are responsible for documenting the information in our communities to be able to submit that to CMS for reimbursement, they're getting a better picture of the cross stay of those individuals for a historical longer period of time than they would have before. Obviously the speed to add that information to our EHR is significant. When we were printing and scanning and uploading, it could take 5 to 10 minutes per resident to get that information from various different ways. We can do that in less than a minute now with this functionality, so we've gained considerable efficiencies with this functionality. We also can get non-traditional requests. We do not have a direct relationship with the Mayo Clinic. However, we did have a resident who was at one of our facilities who was visiting his daughter in Wisconsin, got sick, needed to go to the Mayo Clinic. We were able then to, when he came back to us, gather that information that we would not have gotten from 300 miles away. We got that immediately into our EHR. We do have dedicated medical coders in our organization. They can search those CCDs a whole lot easier than going through a picture of a PDF. They have faster turnaround time because of this as well. Our standard is about 48 to 72 hours to have an admission coded from the time that they are admitted. We can decrease that down to about 24 hours if everything goes as we would plan it to. It's a more thorough document. We've got a very complete picture of their care, and again, those coders are not searching through hundreds of pages of documents. They can do a very quick electronic search for what they're looking for and add that information as they need it. We have obviously had some of our challenges. The consent, like I talked about before, was a big issue with us, and that's still, from a timing perspective, we still struggle with that sometimes. The lack of partners in the network is probably our single biggest struggle at the moment. Just a quick picture of what that looks like to us. We have about 6,000 admissions across all of our organizations per year. Only about a little over 50% are a part of that network. If we could take that other 45% and get them on the network, we could experience those same efficiencies directly to those individuals that we cannot get that information from right now. We don't know what our own data looks like also. So it's difficult to understand what the hospitals want from us. Just like we can get their information, they can get our information as well. So it's making those dialogues with those individuals at the individual hospital systems to understand what's valuable to them. Right now, queries of our data only include the CCD. So like I'd said before, we're getting therapy documents, we're getting physician notes, we're getting a whole host of information, but returning that back to the hospital, we're only able to give the CCD that way. We'd like to add our physician documentation, our nursing documentation, therapy progress. We'd like to be able to add that as well. So we did partner with SSM Health originally to start this during our pilot. Some quick notes about what they had experienced, just like what you would think they would have experienced. Our connection to them allows them to have faster efficiencies, just like we've experienced those efficiencies. Having that relationship with each other opens the referral pipeline a little wider as well. So a quick look at what that information looks like for them. Obviously, we can send that information to them as well. So again, allergies, medications, the problem list. Again, a whole host of information to go to them. Where do we go next from here? There's always opportunities to educate. We're always looking for additional use cases. We want to continue our order reconciliation process. We want and need to have more hospitals in that network so we can have those efficiencies across our organization. We're looking at non-hospital uses for this too. Urgent cares, physician offices, pharmacies, anywhere that we can get that information from, the more information, the better. We're also looking at home care. We do have our own home care arm just local to the Metro St. Louis area, but our outside organizations, we would like to get that home health and hospice information directly from them as well. I know I blew through that very quickly. Any questions about our process or our experience? Yes.
That was fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about the referral process coming into your facilities and whether you use care quality at that point or bring the data into your chart?
We could, but we don't.
Okay.
And the main reason for that is consistency for our marketers to have one constant way for them to do things. So the referrals that would come into our post-acute side could use the care quality functionality and that documentation, but those coming into our assisted living or independent living, there's not much or any information really from there because they're not typically coming from a hospital. They're coming from home. So there's no information to gather that way. So in order to have one standardized way for our marketers to perform, we don't use that functionality for our referrals right now. Yes?
Yeah, so I have a question.
Yes.
That 43% that you referenced that were not care quality, do you
Yes.
have a sense of how those break down by vendors? Or are those Meditech users, Evident users?
The large dark blue of folks that aren't in that network really are Cerner and Meditech shops. Okay. We've got a good relationship with in the Metro St. Louis area where the majority of hospital systems there are Epic, and there's no issues there. The few that are in Metro St. Louis that do have Cerner, and then a couple of our outlying areas that the hospital systems use Cerner, they're aware of it. They just haven't gotten there yet. So I think it's getting their organization to understand the importance of that, and us being able to show them that it's not just us getting information from you, it's us giving information to you to make it more valuable for them.
Makes sense, thanks. And for what it's worth, as you know, both Cerner and Meditech are able to roll out with, especially on the Meditech side, and for the audience at large, there is some planned rollouts on a wider scale that'll be coming here. Now, I don't know how much
and that's the thing. Having it from a functionality perspective to an operational level, that's the key. Yes.
Do you have a patient family portal that
We do not.
allows?
We would love to have one, but we do not.
Okay.
This could be something that we could use for that as well, where we could take a lot of that information both from the hospital and again from us. From a short stay perspective, you're talking 25, 26 days normally from a short stay, but then long term, significantly longer than that. So to be able to gather that information from the hospital, plus from what you've gotten as you've been cared for in an LSS community, to be able to provide that to a patient's family would be tremendous.
And just one other, are you collecting any social determinants of health data? Or?
No, not that we're able to transmit out. We are doing some of that internally, but nothing that gets pushed in the other direction.
When you said that you would like to provide more than CCDs, what do you see as a limiting factor?
I think probably vendor functionality of the EHR on our side to be able to send that information back out the other direction.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And obviously the care quality functionality does allow you to pull data into your system and for others to pull data from you into theirs. Have you implemented any push messaging functionality such as via direct?
We have not. We would be interested in that to see how that could work in the long-term care space for sure.
Be great.
Yep. Yes.
Good morning. You mentioned you get both the traditional problem med allergy data, but you also work with therapy notes, activities of daily living types of information. Which of those do you use more of? Do you have a gut sense of that? And how or who are using the non-problems med allergy list data in the workflows?
I would say the majority, when that resident first shows up on our doorstep, everyone uses everything they can get their hands on. The longer that patient stays with us, depending on what's needed, typically our MDS coordinators who are gathering that picture of information to submit that back to CMS, or our medical coders are really the ones who are using the majority of that data. So they're really looking for anything and everything that they can find. Even the smallest little additional diagnosis could make a significant impact on our reimbursement. So they're diving very deeply into that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
The information that you make available back to the hospital, if I heard you correctly, do you have any idea on the hospital side, particularly for your post-acute activity, if there's key data elements that they're looking at and any rules that they've built? For example,
not that I'm aware. I know I have heard in those discussions with them what they look at the most is our medication list.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily concerned with allergies because typically they came to us from them in the first place. So they've got that information. The allergy or the medications really are the most important to them. Diagnoses, hit and miss, but the meds are the
Yeah, and anecdotally, I've often heard monitoring weight and fluid intake and INOs and those types of things.
And that information is not something that we've got on our CCD at the current time.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mike. Great presentation. I encourage you to think about the fact that we do have a lot of long-term care, post-acute care on the care quality framework now. Mike's organization happens to use the NetSmart EHR. They are not the only LTPAC vendor that has a live presence. We do also have Matrix Care, Brightree, point-click care clients that are live today as well. So really looking forward to hearing some more success stories as we move forward, and really wanted to highlight the fact that this good work was going on in the LTPAC world, because I think it's an area where we all acknowledge that interoperability can be helpful, but I don't know that folks actually realize how much is actually going on in that world already.